Many subscribers of Inside Strategic Relations are high-income professionals and mass affluent individuals. These are individuals with $250,000, $300,000 a year in income. They have in the bank, $500,000, $1 million, $2 or $3 million. And they're starting to express a concern that if the economy fails, if inflation continues, how will they maintain career and other aspects of their lifestyle? They've become familiar and comfortable with a certain lifestyle that comes with high income. But what happens when that income doesn't matter anymore? Well, I'm Justin Hitt with Inside Strategic Relations. I'm going to draw back to the relationships. Your relationships are going to matter more than money when it comes to inflation, when it comes to civil unrest, when it comes to pandemics and medical situations, when it comes to your ability to get quality food. Your relationships will matter more than anything else. And let me share with you a simple model to understand, and it may not be available to everybody, but the private club of the future will become part of that community that supports your livelihood despite economic problems, despite high inflation, despite civil unrest. Your private club, whether it's a golf club, whether it's a hunt club or a sports club, whether it's a ruralton club or a fraternal organization, these clubs are going to become an oasis away from the hustle and bustle of what's going on in the news, an opportunity to have shared meals. Many of these clubs, fraternities and country clubs and stuff, they have large kitchens, and it is always more cost effective to hold a banquet. It's always more enjoyable to hold a banquet or a potluck. But I also want to introduce to you other types of clubs that may be of value to you. If you have a mastermind group, there are times when it's going to be overwhelming, all the things that are going wrong. Mortgages are being called, house prices are going up and down, it's hard to get contractors. Turn to your mastermind group. You can get advice, insights, and just have somebody, a shoulder to cry on, in a sense, to help solve these problems. Think about this. If you're making $200,000 a year, you're in the top 5% of salaries worldwide. Actually, in the United States, you could be in the top 1% of salaries worldwide if those are U.S. dollars. But then you see your political figures go on the news and say, look, we're going to start taxing unrealized capital gains. Well, you got enough sense to know that today you could have capital gains and tomorrow you don't. Tesla, for example, Tesla shoots up and then it drops back down. You could have capital gains when taxes come around, but are they going to give you a refund if you've got capital losses? See, a lot of these people don't think about these things. What about the lockdown? Well, I know at the country club that I was a member at, during the lockdown, I was still swimming in the swimming pool. I was still having good meals. I was still socializing with friends. Now, we did take some precautions until we got the information we needed to know what precautions were relevant or not. Some events got canceled. That's fine. But ultimately, the club is the oasis. Now, there are different kinds of clubs. So I mentioned a mastermind group. That might be business-oriented club. There's what's called a community-sponsored agriculture, called a CSA. And that's where you buy into a farm, and that farm grows food and then shares the food out according to your buy-in. So maybe you buy 1 share or you buy 2 shares. Maybe you got a larger family and you buy 5 shares. You're going to basically get a proportional share back. Now, are you lowering your cost of food if you buy into a CSA? Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't, but I can guarantee you that a good quality organic or better than organic CSA is going to deliver to you higher quality food, higher nutritional value food, and when the shelves at the grocery store are empty, you're going to have food on your table. Now, there's different kinds of CSAs. I have been a member of a CSA that was vegetables and eggs only. I've been a member of a CSA that has meat and chickens. Now, I know chickens are meat, but lamb, goat, cat, beef is the one set of meat, and then chicken was the common meat that came. It really is dependent on your locality, and I want to make sure you understand, again, it's the relationship that has the highest value. Do you know the farmers producing your food? You see it right now. You go to the grocery store to get your favorite foods. You can't get them. You go to a grocery store to get ice cream and you notice the container's even smaller than it was before, yet it's almost twice the price. You go out to get meat and you notice the meat is $16, $17, $18 a pound. Well, you could raise and grow your own animals like we talk about in Prosperity Homestead, which is another newsletter that I have. But you might not have the space to do that. Your local bylaws may not allow that. You may not have the desire to have the variety of foods, but there are local and regional farmers in your area that would love to have you as a member of their private club. That's the community-sponsored agriculture. And you will love to have the quality foods. Now, if there are wine clubs too, there's an alcohol shortage in Texas right now. And, the members of the wine club in my community, there's a local cafe that runs a wine club. They're still getting bottles of wine because 99% of those bottles of wine are coming from regional suppliers rather than being imported from overseas. See, if you didn't know, the 80% of alcohol that comes into the United States comes from overseas. So it's shipped in. It's an import. And you may want quality imports. That's fine. But when you can't get quality imports, are you going to go without? You've invested your life in earning a career that pays very well. You have invested in your family. You've invested in your home. You've saved money so that you have a high net worth. Are you going to give that up just so you can have food when it's scarce? Or are you going to be part of a private organization? Now, I talk about this in some of my special reports. I've talked about this with members. You can cultivate your own private benefit organization. But again, joining one that's already existing is probably the easiest thing to do. It's an opportunity to socialize. It's an opportunity to connect. It's an opportunity to work together as a small, tight-knit community. And it's a massively valuable resource. Think about this. Instead of going out to a restaurant, you go to the private club, have dinner at the club. Where is the money going? And this is why relationships are so powerful. If you are a club member, a shareholder in that club, and you're eating dinner at that club, a slice of those profits are going back in your pocket. It's going into the building maintenance. It's going into the tennis courts and the golf courses and all of the amenities that are available to you. If you're a part of a community-sponsored agriculture, every dollar you spend is going into the livelihood and the well-being of that farmer who is creating food for you, who is planting the food and caring for it and harvesting that food. It's like owning part of the grocery store because the higher quality and value of that food comes to you, and every dollar you spend goes back into it. Now, when that farmer, if you're a local business owner, or if you're in a community, when that farmer spends their money and they spend it at the local cafe or the local restaurant that's using their produce, then that money's staying in the community and it's building wealth in the community. But the best value of this is to understand that if everything goes to crap, civil unrest, government mandates and restrictions, maybe you're unvaccinated and now you can't travel and you can't go anywhere. But guess what? Your local farm doesn't give a damn because they've studied this thing. They know what's going on, and they'll manage to get you the food that you need. If you're a member, again, so we talk about relationships, how you can cultivate relationships for profits, how you can create relationships, but you are on the receiving end of a relationship and a partner in the relationships of those around you in your community. Do you know your neighbors? Me and my neighbors were talking about setting up a community garden. They're a little bit older than I am, and they wanted a garden that they didn't have to till. So I'm young. I can till the garden. I can care for the structure of the garden, and they can show up and plant their vegetables, and then we can all enjoy it. There's a farm that I'm working on right now. So I'm not a member of a CSA right now. I used to be. I'm not a member of a country club right now. I used to be, but I actually have bought land, and I also work on someone else's farm to basically make this infrastructure available in our local community. So there's really a lot of approaches on how you want to do it, but what it's doing is it's adding value to the lifestyle So everything else goes to crap. You still got food on the table. You still got outdoor recreation. You still have got friends and family that can take care of each other. And you're ahead of the game. It also provides for you the nutrition and the entertainment and the socialization that's necessary. So let's say you got a country club, private members at the country club. If the government mandates to shut down all the gyms, and I know this is a fact, government mandated to shut down all the gyms, country club people just went to the gym anyway. Now, you might be thinking, oh my gosh, super spreaders, COVID spread. No, healthy people don't get attacked by viruses. It's just the way science works. If you've got a healthy immune system, you can fight off a virus. And that's what these people were maintaining. Healthy food, healthy lifestyle, healthy support networks and structure, healthy exercise. All these things can't come together to create the wealth, the context of your lifestyle, and ultimately the results that you deserve no matter what happens in the economy. Now, yes, it's true. If you're making $250,000 a year, if you've got a $2.3 million net worth, if you are even further along, like $32 million net worth, you aren't going to be impacted as much as the person down the street. However, if you're living among the rest of the population, they will notice that when things get bad enough, and they will come for what you've got. If you have the structure in place of community, if you have the structure in place of reliable food resources, if you have the structure in place of even physical security, because maybe you're living in the country home now rather than living in a city. With these three things, it's like a three-legged stool that holds you up so that when all this is past us, because no matter how bad it gets, eventually it changes, or you can move to a different country. But ultimately, once you get past this situation, you haven't been inconvenienced. Now, I know one family who went through the Great Depression, and I talked to this gentleman. He's 98 years old. I said, look, do you remember the Great Depression? He goes, yeah, I kind of remember it, but we don't see it like that. I said, what do you mean? And this guy's a building developer, very wealthy. He owned his own resort that was basically owned in the virtual family office, and it was where they all did their vacationing. And ultimately, he said, look, we didn't even notice the Great Depression. Now, they weren't rich then. They weren't wealthy then. They didn't have a high net worth then, but they didn't even notice it because, again, they had relationships. They had self-sufficiency. They had a perspective of where's the opportunity. And then ultimately that gave them the financial freedom so that when things started coming back and things started improving, they were moving from a position of prosperity. They were moving from a position of connection. They were moving from a position of growth, and they were able to have the influence, to have the control, to have the strength, to have the life that they wanted for their family. So if you're not already part of a private club, and there's sportsmen's clubs, there's social clubs, there's country clubs, there's golf clubs. You choose the club that works right for you. If you're not involved in a fraternal organization or some kind of trade association, find one that's right for you. If you're not a member of a CSA or a cooperative grocer, a lot of health food stores have cooperative groceries, then you're not connected in a way that's going to insulate you from the challenges that are going on. Now, if you don't have $2 million in the bank, this is definitely going to impact you, and you need to take action right now to solve this problem. Because if you don't have enough in the bank, enough net worth, then you're not going to be able to leverage the profits that are available with inflation, the profits that are available with civil unrest. So we can talk about that in another space. The key to understand what I'm sharing with you here today is don't go at this alone. There's a lot of people who, when there's civil unrest and when there's problems with politics, they want to retreat. I argue that using strategic relationships, you're going to reach out to your political figures. You're going to be very vocal in meaningful ways. I'm not talking about protesting. You're going to start building the strength of alternative communities, even alternative economies. And you're going to start doing what is necessary so that you survive the worst of the situation. Now, I pray that we don't have a bad situation or things don't get worse. But even if it does, Do you have the skills that are necessary to make the connections, to provide for your family, to influence decisions in your community, and to ultimately gain yourself the personal freedom and protection necessary to live the life that you want? If you don't, you are in the right place. And even if you have these things and you're refining them, you are in the right place. I'm Justin Hitt with Inside Strategic Relations, where we help you transform business relationships into profits, not just monetary profits, but security profits, health and wellness profits, those things that make you a whole person. And we do this by connecting with people, connecting with organizations, connecting with decision makers. I want to thank you for listening. If you have any questions about this or any program that I cover, I do have a podcast. Be sure you subscribe. You can subscribe here, or you can visit www.insidestrategicrelations.com, where you can ask your questions. Simply go to the contact page and send me a letter, or you can join our newsletters and resources that are available. Again, thanks for listening. I'm Justin Hitt with Inside Strategic Relations.